This is the network service of the NTA. This is about all we can take on this live broadcast. Our scheduled program is up next.
Hello, it is time for Weekend File, and I'm glad to know that you have time to keep us company tonight on the show. And now let's get down to work. Diversification of energy sources in domestic, commercial, and industrial sectors through the adoption of new and emerging technologies have been suggested by many as a gateway to uninterrupted energy supply. Waste to energy, a process of generating energy in form of electricity or heat from the primary treatment of waste, has been brought to the fore by experts. They say that there are plenty of garbage on the land, and rather than dump them, they can be used to generate power, producing combustible fuel commodity such as methane, methanol, ethanol, or synthetic fuel. A study also shows that there are a number of other new technologies that are able to produce energy from waste and other fuels without combustion. These are issues of concern tonight on our show, as experts from across the nation will throw more light on the possibility of adopting new technologies in sourcing energy, especially through garbage, which is abundantly available in Nigeria. My name is Kurian Umayo. Now join me and the crew as we unfold another session of critical analysis of issues that touch our lives in great many ways. This is Weekend File, your weekend companion, only on the network service of the NTA. You're welcome. And I will bring you news of the day. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, says the Nigerian Air Force will sustain the tempo of its operations in fighting insurgency and other forms of criminality in the country. He was speaking at the inauguration of accommodation facilities for officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. Defense correspondent Isaac Nkuma reports.
Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, placed host to the 235 Mobility Command of the Nigerian Air Force. For the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, this is homecoming, having served as the pioneer air officer commanding of the mini base, which was established in 2011. The occasion is the inauguration of completed accommodation and recreational facilities for officers and men of the force. The Chief of Air Staff says with the inauguration of the facilities, more Air Force personnel will be deployed to the state in boosting its capacity to fight criminal activities, especially the resurgence of militancy in the Niger Delta.
We are working around the clock to make sure that every territory is safe for our people to go about their legitimate businesses without any hindrance. And that is same for Northeast, and it's the same thing we are pushing everywhere, Southwest and the South-South as well.
I'm very pleased going around this area of facilities for the quality and the number and the dedication and the motivation that I've seen and the Chief of Air Staff has engendered. He has clearly shown that it's a good mobilizer of men and resources.
Air Vice Marshal Larry Konya, retired, who was the special guest of honor at the occasion, while commending the role of the Nigerian Air Force in the fight against insurgency, prayed that the mini base will someday in the future be upgraded to a full Air Force base. Governor Siriake Dixon had earlier promised to support the Nigerian Air Force in establishing Air Force primary and secondary schools at the mini base, following the Chief of Air Staff's intention to site a cancer screening center in the base. From Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, Isaac Nkuma, NTA News.
And nearly 10,000 Kano farmers are to participate in the Rice Anchor program this year. This came to light during the program launch presided over by the state governor, Abdullahi Omar Ganduje. Abdullahi Mustafa reports.
In Kano State, 9,666 farmers have so far been registered for participation in rice production. Of this number, Governor Abdullahi Omar Ganduje, who flagged off the program, said 5,540 have been cleared by the Central Bank of Nigeria, while the remaining are being screened. He urged the beneficiaries to take advantage of the opportunity in giving their contribution towards Nigeria's economic growth and attainment of self-sufficiency in food production. Representatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Bank of Agriculture, off-takers and input vendors assured of their readiness towards full implementation of the program so that the success recorded in Gombe State could be replicated and surpassed in Kano State. The farmers on their part thanked the federal government for making agriculture a top priority in its agenda. With sustained support, they assured local farmers could end food importation within 2 years, as envisaged by the Buhari administration. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
Gombe State is making concerted efforts to ensure investments for the provision of infrastructure that will facilitate socio-economic development in the state. Correspondent Musa Abubakar reports on the inspection of some project sites by Governor Dan Kwambo.
Like the name implies, Dogonrua is a vibrant agricultural community in Gombe State. People here grow wheat, rice, maize and vegetables all year round, but they have a problem of access road for easy transportation of their produce to other parts of the state and country. This is what Gombe State Governor Ibrahim Hassan Dankwambo is doing to address their lingering problem. At an inspection visit for the construction of Dogonrua Bridge to link with other local governments, the governor expressed delight with the work, which is almost completed. Also, Governor Dankwambo visited the new Kaltungo anti-snake bite treatment hospital, which his administration is building to help snake bite victims have quick and easy treatment. The hospital is now ready, waiting for the modern facilities proposed. Dankwambo also assured that when the Skills Acquisition Center Tureme is renovated, it will provide relief to the current challenges of unemployment among youths. He promised to fully renovate the center.
You have seen the first bridge we have inspected, the 7-span bridge has been completed satisfactorily. This bridge, which is about 3-4 span bridge, also has been completed. You see the numerous culverts that has also been completed.
Some people interviewed commended the governor for the initiatives. In Gombe, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello has directed the Abuja Environmental Protection Board to rid the nation's capital of cattle that are still grazing in residential areas. In a statement signed by his Chief Press Secretary, Mohammed Sule, the minister described the unregulated activities of the herdsmen in Abuja's city center as a bizarre and embarrassing situation, which the AEBP must find a way to deal with. Although the minister did not specify where the pastoralists should be relocated to, he charged the AEPP of the FCT task team on environment to immediately ensure that Abuja is sanitized of all environmental nuisance, including begging and hawking activities on pedestrian bridges and streets. The FCT minister warned the AEBP management that he would no longer tolerate excuses for failure to carry out their statutory duties. The Minister of State Aviation, Hadi Serika, says that all Progressive Congress government is committed to creating job opportunities and improving the general well-being of all Nigerians as enshrined in its manifesto. The minister said this in Lagos when he paid an unscheduled visit to one of the private airlines whose workers were demonstrating over unpaid salaries. Vera Chinguba was there for us.
The Minister of State Aviation Hadi Sirika's visit became necessary following suspension of flight operations by the airline. The workers of the airline who occupied the airline's headquarters at the Murtala Mohammed Airport are protesting the indefinite leave given to them by the management, in addition to unpaid salary arrears. The minister, who also appealed passionately to the workers to disperse to give room for discussion with the airline management and critical stakeholders, promised that the airline would be restructured. He assured them that the problem bedeviling the airline would be looked into adding that it is the duty of the federal government to create jobs. As a result, would not allow any business entity in the aviation sector under his leadership to go into extinction.
The protest is founded, is justifiable. I agree with the issues, but we will look into it and come out with a solution that is going to be mutually beneficial for all of us, both the staff, the company, and government itself.
The Minister of State also noted that the Assets Management Commission of Nigeria, APCON, took over the airline because of its indebtedness to banks. But the decision of APCON was not out of place, as its mission was to sustain the airline. The minister is expected to hold a meeting with the workers in Lagos. Viera Chumba, NTA News.
Gombe State Governor David Umahi has promised to support the federal government's skills acquisition program by equipping artisans trained by the Industrial Training Fund. He made the pledge at the flag-off of the 5th phase of the National Industrial Skills Development Program for the youth in Gombe State. Emmanuel Mizu completes the report.
Governor Umahi, while flagging off the program in this, highlighted the importance of training the youth as a way of reducing crime in the society. He assured the Industrial Training Fund of the sustainability of the program in the state.
It's a partnership that is going to last, and I can assure you that it's sustainable.
The acting director of the Industrial Training Fund, Mr. Dixon Ono, has said about 9,500 youths will be trained in 18 selected states of the Federation in line with the federal government's policy of job creation.
I call on the state government and all other stakeholders to join hands with federal government in its effort to harness the potentials of our teeming youth so as to create jobs and reduce poverty and youth restiveness.
The recruitment and orientation of 500 trainees that are presented to you today will commence on the 20th of June 2016 in 3 senatorial zones of Gombe State.
Some of the trainees commended officials of the Industrial Training Fund for their ingenuity in assisting youths across the country to achieve self-reliance. In Abakaliki, Emmanuel Mizu, NTA News.
The Managing Director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Hadiza Bala Osman, has embarked on an inspection tour of facilities at the nation's ports. This is part of efforts by the federal government to sanitize the ports and waterways. Bolero Barra reports that the inspection exercise was aimed at re-engineering the ports to compete favorably with others across the world.
The exercise began from Tinkan Island Port in Apapa, where the managing director, Hadiza Bala Usman, said the essence of the tour is to work out strategies capable of boosting the economy by regulating port operations for efficiency.
We would holistically review all this and determine what it is that is applicable as it relates to holding bays inside the port complex and also outside. Because indeed, Nigerian Ports Authority has premise, has property, as we've cited now. There are locations that are owned by the Nigerian Ports Authority that can be used to provide such services. Such services, of course, at commercial rate, where people would pay minimal amount for a service where they can keep their trailers pending where they're called upon to come and collect their cargo.
The team also inspected the ports terminals, Joseph Dam Port Services, Port and Terminal Multi-Services, Port and Cargo Terminal, 5-star as well as Kirikiri Lighter Terminal. Hadiza Bala Usman also inspected the Elshodi Apapa Expressway leading to the ports.
We'll do a holistic assessment of the traffic congestion assessment here. We believe that beyond roadworks, we need to do much more than that, and we'll work jointly with the relevant ministries to achieve it.
At the end of the tour, the management of the Nigerian Port Authority stressed the need for rehabilitation and modernization of the port to meet the demands of port users in terms of profitability. In Lagos, Abolore Obara, NTA News.
The President, Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs and Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Saad Abubakar III, has declared Saturday, 3rd September 2016, as the first day of Zulhijjah 1437 after Hijrah, following reports on the sighting of the new moon of Zulhijjah by various committees across the country. Therefore, 12th September 2016, which will be equivalent to 10th of Zulhijjah, will be marked as this year's Idil Kabir. You can watch this news live online via the NTA mobile app, which you can also download on your Android device at the Google Play Store or at the Apple Store if you use devices with iOS. Developed countries and many others rely on what is called energy mix to meet their power needs. For too long, Nigeria, however, relied on hydropower as source of its power before gas was included, leading to the energy crisis in the country finds himself today. A source of energy which has not been harnessed in Nigeria is waste to energy. Though Lagos State has pioneered the process, other states are yet to catch on. Remain with us to explore the strategies towards attaining energy security through the conversion of thousands, if not millions, of metric tons of solid waste generated in Nigeria. This is Weekend File. We're glad you're here with us, and we'll be back very shortly. Stay with us.
President Muhammadu Buhari will launch the National Reorientation Campaign, Change Begins With Me, on Thursday, 8 September 2016. Venue, State House Conference Center, Abuja. Guests to be seated by 9 a.m. Attendance is strictly by invitation. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, announcer.
Discover the liquid freshness of Center Fresh chewing gum that you feel. And others too. Center Fresh. Trust the freshness.
This University Abuja offers world-class education, uninterrupted academic session, and promising degrees for a sustainable job. Bayes University Abuja is affordable and delivers quality with experienced international staff, superb facilities, overseas external examiners, and a serene academic atmosphere. We offer quality and affordable education, and students are within easy reach of their parents here at Bayes University Abuja. So learn to live at Bayes University for a brighter future. For more information, visit our website at www.bayesuniversity.edu.ng or call 081 3376 9657 or 081 3376 9658. Bayes University Abuja. Learn to live.
Successful political change must begin to improve people's daily lives. That is the democracy dividend Nigerians have waited for. But no one should expect that all the damage done over a generation can be undone in a year. Real change demands perseverance and patience. It demands openness to honorable compromise and cooperation. It demands support on a constant basis from the people of Nigeria and from your friends abroad. That does not mean being patient with corruption or injustice, but to give up hope because change comes slowly would only be to hand a victory to those who do not want to change at all. Remember something we Americans have learned in over 224 years of experience with democracy. It is always and everywhere a work in progress.
If we have lost the opportunity of 15 years, let us no longer lose any opportunity for the future. Our alternative is agriculture immediately and solid minerals.
We should be appreciative of the president who has again diverted attention to this issue of agriculture.
The present administration is determined to go back to planning, identify priorities beforehand. When money comes, it is applied to that purpose. You can see the results.
We are determined to rehabilitate our country especially for our children and our grandchildren.
The challenges being faced in Nigeria's power sector are compelling the need to give priority attention to the diversification of the sources. While the list may be inexhaustible, waste to energy is an option towards achieving sustainable development or environment in addition to electricity generation. Hamza Msamokrafi gives us a background report on this.
Abuja City and its burden of waste. Satellite communities of the FCT also have similar burden to contend with on a daily basis. This is significantly from the lifestyles of Nigerians. High statistics of waste are generated in Lagos, Aba, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, Kano, Enugu and Kaduna, among Nigeria's biggest towns and cities.
Nigeria generates 3.2 million tons of waste annually.
Beyond the huge environmental hazards and consequences on the well-being of the people, there is proposal to confront the menace of waste by energy generation.
It's a way of zeroizing waste in Nigeria. No waste goes to dump sites. After you've sorted, you've removed the recyclables, you've done all that, the remaining waste, you can generate electricity from it.
It is a global phenomenon. However, commitments by some of the states in Nigeria and the private sector may not have produced tangible impact on the initiative. But there is a basis for relevance, with federal governments driving incremental, steady and uninterrupted power supply from different sources in tandem with sustainable development goals in energy supply for all.
And if you can generate electricity from waste, you are in one way or the other promoting this goal.
Sustainable, the raw material is waste. I think the key things that we need to see this government do is to put in the policies to aggressively drive it, right, to encourage a lot of private sector participation so we can use local materials as a substitution for a lot of the costlier materials to set up some of these biogas plants.
There are requirements if Nigeria is to properly benefit from waste to energy initiative, with some already articulated by the relevant agencies of government and others yet to materialize.
The government must put in place a regulation that says no more waste to landfill, and tell people that they can earn a living by collecting this waste and sending it to particular points where they are needed. And once they can do that, you will see that people will start collecting waste. So the first thing energy from waste needs in Nigeria to succeed is legislation and effective regulation.
As with every enterprise, there are both challenges and opportunities, and so it is in waste to energy initiative in Nigeria.
And that's Hamza Msamokrafi's report there on converting waste to energy. Now we'll move on. The utilization of waste generated in Lagos metropolis for power has not been really so successful. Investigation reveals that all efforts by the state have often ended at experimental stage. Tunde Saiki tells us why.
The Lagos State experience in the use of waste to generate power had always been on the experimental scale. Apart from some academic and individual attempts, the state government sometimes in the past attempted the pilot scheme for a mountain gas capturing initiative at the Olusosun dump site, which was stopped. Another attempt was at the Ketu fruit and vegetable market, where a biogas low-scaled initiative is still in the trial stage.
Waste to power, we have for now, we have next to nothing for now. Okay? But if you are talking about waste to wealth, we have so many things ongoing.
They have not yet attained the maximum use of it because, you know, we need to train a lot of people.
The Lagos State Commissioner for Environment says the state government is evolving better ways of managing solid waste that will be used to generate power.
You know, to capture methane, you have to start from beginning ab initio. You know, from the start, when you are starting to operate the landfill, it has to be ab initio from the beginning, because the pipe has to be made from the pit itself or wherever you are starting from, so that the refuse will just be coming on top of it, and they will have layers, and as they have layers like that, those pipes will run through those layers.
Some experts, however, say virtually all the solid waste can be used to achieve this, as some youths are already being trained on how to use human, vegetable and crop waste as biogas for alternative source of power generation.
We can use the chicken feather to generate electricity. We can use the waste, the garbage to generate electricity. A lot of waste that is, we can use the organic, at times the garden waste.
So far, when all these initiatives and collaborations being put in place by the state government come into fruition, experts say over 80% of power can be generated from waste. In Lagos for NTA Weekend 5, Tunde Saiki.
Well, you can also be sure that this situation applies in all the states of the Federation where huge, or if you like, large amount of waste are generated. Nothing has been done to try and to explore the idea of converting them to power. You're watching NTA Weekend File, and our discussion segment is right after this.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're welcome back, and I'm now being joined from our Kaduna Network Center by the former Director General of the Energy Commission of Nigeria, Professor Abubakar Sani Sambo. Hello, Professor Sambo. Welcome to Weekend File. Professor Sambo, I hope you can hear me clearly. Good evening and welcome to Weekend File. All right. We are not actually hearing you at this end. I hope all is well there with our audio lines. But let me first of all ask you the first question that will help us determine whether you can reach us or not. Now, like the economy, Nigeria has relied on one source of power for a very long time, while in other nations, energy mix, is what is in vogue at the moment. Now, can Nigeria really diversify its power sources successfully?
Definitely, Nigeria can and should expand the energy mix for electricity generation beyond the current two, to include all the viable sources that could contribute meaningfully to generation of electricity, like the municipal wastes.
This be achieved knowing our level of technology? How can it be achieved? What can be done to get this achieved?
Well, to begin with, I want to say the government has done reasonably well by having the National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Policy approved since 2015. And what is required is to implement that policy. The government can go ahead to ensure that municipal wastes are included in the nation's electricity generation expansion plan. When that is done, then the next step is to advertise through auction for the organized private sector to come and participate in this very laudable area.
Well, sir, you did say that in 2015, government gave approval for that. But one of our respondents in a report we showed a short while ago is saying that there is need for some sort of legislation. What does that mean to you? Would that be more effective than what we have at the moment?
Actually, in many countries, developing countries like our own, yes, it is better for policies to be upgraded to law, because when they are passed into law, it becomes more compelling by the relevant authorities to provide the needed support for implementation of those particular new energy ideas. And specifically, I want to also add that apart from the policy document I mentioned, there is also the other document that has been developed, which is essential for all renewable energy, and that is the feed-in tariff. The feed-in tariff has been prepared by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. It is a pathway that is absolutely necessary for new energy systems, especially the renewable energy ones. And I think that one also should be passed into law in order to facilitate and fast track the uptake of renewables into the nation's electricity generation expansion plan.
All right, you may have heard in the report from Lagos that although Lagos has started this practice for some time now, but it ended at an experimental stage. That takes me back to the issue of our level of technological, acquisition. Now, what, in your opinion, may have resulted to what Lagos has started, ending without results?
From the reports I gathered, it appears to me that Lagos went a particular way only, and that is the use of waste materials in landfill gas dumps. But the more conventional approach is not to do it that way, but to do waste management facilities that are combustion chamber based. And when you do that, you generate steam, and you have the systems of steam turbine power stations. That is more effective. That is what most advanced countries are following, and that is what we need to do. The landfill gases are okay, but I think that is not the approach for us to start with. We should start with the conventional waste management facilities, like I said, that are based on the steam power generation schemes.
All right, thank you for that. And that leads me to the next question, which has to do with what it really takes to convert waste to energy. You talked about conventional facilities. What are these conventional facilities, and what kind of waste is actually required, to get this achieved?
When you have municipal waste, you have so many components. There are, of course, plastics, there are metallic components. These have to be separated. The biodegradables are the ones we are talking about. And these biodegradables can be combusted in combustion chambers, and you can have water, simple, ordinary water, heated. And when the heating goes on, you generate a lot of steam. The steam is pressurized under high temperature, under high pressure. It is then expanded in turbines, like you have typical Rankine cycle. And the turbines rotation leads to electricity generation. This is simply the process that you find in the conventional incineration plants based on waste management facilities. And that is the one that I think we should start with.
Okay, talking about combustion, Is there any problem with that? Because some experts have also argued against the combustible method, their preferred non-combustible methods that are also applicable, in converting waste to energy. Is there anything like that?
So the most common other option, apart from the combustion one, is the one in which biogas is generated, and the gas is can be combusted in internal combustion type of engines, and then you have electricity generation also. The biogas route is a little bit more demanding than the one that I mentioned that goes for steam turbines. But by and large, the two have to go together so that we have more varieties in the electricity expansion schemes for the country.
Now, looking at the possibility of acquiring, the infrastructure for this, how would you advise government on this? Assuming that a decision has been taken now, through legislation for us to go into this, what are things that are required with respect to infrastructure, facilities, and of course the personnel that may be required to drive that?
Actually, if you consider in Nigeria at the moment, generation and distribution of electricity have been privatized. And what is required really and truly is for the government to bring out advertisement to attract the private sector to go into this lucrative area of electricity generation. It's not that the government will go directly into this activity, but the private sector should be enticed to do. And like I said at the beginning, the first steps are already there. The National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Law and the feed-in tariff law that the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has gone far with. These are first steps, and I think all that is needed, like I mentioned, is for the government to bring out to the general public the advertisement for the auction approach through which the private sector can come into this area. I should quickly mention that other African countries, especially South Africa, are making significant progress in this direction, and I think we should emulate that country in this regard that we are talking about.
Yeah, you actually touched on the role of government, but I'd like you to expatiate that. What should government do to create what, of course, we know in Nigeria is enabling environment, which the private sector requires of government to be able to step into any business that is that could generate employment for our people. What should government do to create this enabling environment for them?
Already, like I mentioned, the electricity is no longer like it was 10 years ago. Now, private sector, through the Electricity Powers Reform Act of 2005, is allowed to participate in the area, and specifically, the bulk electricity trader is there to buy the electricity if it is of particular level, while the smaller generations could be taken as embedded generation at distribution outlets in various parts of the country. So to me, government has started in that direction. All that is required is for IMBET to be more up and coming, to get the private sector to come into this terrain.
All right. What role would you think the state governments should play in this? Lagos started something, even when they say it stopped at experimental stage. Some states could go beyond that. Now, what's your advice to state government? What role do you think they could play in all of this?
State governments at the moment, they have started one program or the other in electricity generation, especially hydro, and even gas in the southern states. And I am aware also some states going solar, mini-grid solar, to provide electricity to various communities within their own domains. And I will strongly advise these states to also include waste management power plants in their policy positions, so that the private sector could come into those areas also. All that is required for the states is to include, to say they also have dump sites, and they want anybody who has ideas on how to use them meaningfully for electricity generation to submit his own proposal. And I think once they start from that point, we will begin to see further development in that direction.
Now, poor public perception has been cited as a challenge. Now, how can this be overcome?
Well, the poor public perception can only be overcome if the various governments come in a very transparent manner, no favoritism, to ensure the very best of the applications they receive are the ones they approve. So if they go in this direction, it will ensure that those selected will actually build plants that work. And once plants are constructed, they generate electricity from such resources as the waste dumps. Then the general public will no longer be mistrusting governments, or the general public will begin to believe governments better.
Is this process, in your opinion? Cost effective is this process? Professor Sambo, I hope you can still hear me. How cost effective is this process? Assuming any state or government wants to get involved in that, how cost effective is it?
Key in the area of electricity generation. The best way to go is to look at levelized cost of electricity production. The levelized cost of electricity production brings into effect the capital cost, the operation and maintenance, both variable and fixed, as well as the fuel cost. And once you bring all these, you will find that the waste management electricity plants are actually cheaper than solar photovoltaics, cheaper than even direct solar thermal, a little bit more expensive than coal power plants, and more expensive than hydropower plants. So in a nutshell, I would say they are economically viable.
Okay, Professor Sambo, you were former Director General of the Energy Commission of Nigeria. Does this commission has any statutory role to play in this process?
Oh, the commission has a lot, because the commission has the mandate, the overall mandate of producing strategic plans and coordinating national policies on energy in all its ramifications. In this regard, the commission is working in diversifying the energy mix for electricity generation for quite a long time, and I can assure you that the waste management issues we've been discussing are within the mandates of the commission, and I'm aware it is working in this direction also.
Okay, there is this issue of non-biodegradable waste and degradable waste. What is the difference, when it comes to the issue of turning waste to energy? Which of these is more relevant or preferable for anybody to use?
It is the biodegradable ones that are used in the combustion and also in the biogas generation. They are the ones preferred generation. However, research activities, intensive research activities, are now even pointing out that the non-biodegradables, the plastics in particular, are being handled by advanced plants, and they are being converted into diesel-like substance for use in conventional diesel-powered generators. So, in a nutshell, I would say that all are useful, but for now, the level of technology is that we should concentrate on the biodegradables.
Now, Professor Sambo, how can waste to power provide off-grid solution?
Now, when earlier on we were discussing about what can be done by states, if you recall, I mentioned that the plants, the power plants, for example, if you take a 50 megawatts plant can be operated with waste of about 2,200 tons, and that 50 megawatts is ideal for operation close to major load centers at the distribution outlets. So it can be used either on grid, or it can be used off grid in communities that are far away from the grid. They fit perfectly, and I should strongly say they are one of the options that can be utilized to provide electricity in locations far away from the grid and in locations that is very difficult for the grid to be extended to them.
Now, one of respondents in our report mentioned the issue of human capacity, now training Nigerians to actually man any form of facility that may be available for this process. Now, talking about training, do you think that Nigeria has the human capacity to run this process?
When you talk of the manpower needs in all major energy facilities, you are talking of the right from the artisans, the craftsmen, the technologists, the engineers. We don't have enough manpower through this value chain. There isn't any for all, even for the gas, even for the hydro that have been with us for quite some time. So for all, we don't have adequate manpower. But that should not be the reason why we should not start going in particular areas. The issue of manpower development is a continuous one, which is why so many of us do not condemn the establishment of newer and newer polytechnics and universities. It is because as the population is expanding, as the population is increasing, the need to produce more and more manpower on everything, not even energy, even housing, water supply, road development, all of them is there, is continuous, is expanding. They are living things. They are not things that you produce 10 engineers 10 years ago, you stop. No, no, no. It has to be increasing because the major yardstick is the population. As the population is increasing, everything is increasing. We need to have manpower in every aspect.
All right, thank you, Professor Sambo. I will return to you in a short while, but I'd like you to watch this report from Kano State, where we were told that despite the enormous waste generated from domestic and industrial activities in that state, it is yet to explore the idea of converting waste to power. Take a listen.
These are numerous children who engage in the collection of waste products as means of livelihood in Kano metropolis. Hussein Muhammad is one out of the many who engage in scavenging, but unaware that it could be used for electricity generation.
I used to get more than 1,000 naira every day from plastic. I collect from dump site.
Waste or waste products are valuable resource for domestic and industrial uses. In many countries, these disposable products are differentiated by forms for usage, principally into plastic, organic waste and other byproducts. Kano State, with more than 16 million people, is believed to be among highly populated states, have the potential of turning waste to power, but sadly this has not come to fruition. Statistics show that the energy required to meet the need of Kano, Katsina and Jigawa State is about 600 to 700 megawatts. But currently, even with the improvement of power generation, only 200 to 300 megawatt is provided. Dr. Abdullahi Imam, a lecturer with the Department of Biochemistry, Bayer University, Kano, believes that the domestic agricultural as well as industrial waste, if properly recycled, the power need of the state in terms of biodiesel, bioethanol and methane can be attained. Abdullahi further attributes the misuse of waste to lack of political will, enabling environment for investors and commitment by stakeholders.
Well, sorry, we lost audio in that portion where Dr. Imam was actually trying to stress a point. Professor Sambo, you've watched this, and the narrator talked about the viability of Kano with this population, right? And what would you be advising if you're asked to advise the Kano state government on what it could do with that population and the level of waste generated in that very big state?
That Kano for quite some time has been thinking of generating electricity through IPP arrangement, and they have been trying to do that through hydropower. You know, there are quite a number of dams in Kano State, hydropower, and also I picked that they are also interested in gas power stations. I would strongly recommend that waste management sites, waste management stations for electricity generation should be encouraged practically by Kano State government. They can do this by bringing out, like I said earlier, an advertisement calling for the private sector to come with proposals on how to develop power stations utilizing the huge refuse in Kano State for electricity generation. And that could go a long way to ameliorate the situation in that state and the neighboring states that they are talking about. I've done some calculations, and it would seem to me that at the current level of waste disposal in Nigeria, it is possible to have about 2,300 megawatts of electricity in general. 2,300. This is only restricted to municipal waste, like we've been seeing on television. I should quickly say that if you expand a little bit and take agricultural waste, which are in two parts, there is a crop residues and there's animal droppings. If you put these two, then the electricity generation could be quadrupled to the figure that I mentioned, will approach something like 10,000 megawatts. So if you link the municipal waste along with the agricultural waste and those industrial waste that are not part of municipalities, then you are going to get a lot of electricity generated. Could be of the order of 10,000 megawatts at the moment, but restricting it to waste management of the municipalities is coming to about 2,300 megawatts at the moment.
All right, Professor Sani Sambo, the former Director General of the Energy Commission of Nigeria, I'd like to thank you immensely for your perspectives on this topic tonight. We appreciate that a great deal, and it's been very exciting talking to you tonight on this very important issue. Thank you for contributing to the program. Thank you for contributing to the program. All right, happening in the world of sports is next on our timeline. First, this is the last break.